So I'm just done now creating my great data environment that combines Salesforce.com data, Google Analytics, and a Google Spreadsheet. So I want to go out and report on that data. So earlier what you saw was the SiSense Elastic Cube. Now what you're looking at is the ad hoc point-and-click analysis tool called BI Studio, which is part of the SiSense suite. And in the same box you get the database, you get the ad hoc tool, and you're going to see later the ability to share that on the web. What am I looking at here? I'm looking at a tool that a business user is going to be able to use to build stunning dashboards and analytics across an unlimited number of data sources without having to script. You see on the left here is what we call the data browser. You can see all the tables that we brought in earlier. Again, point and click. On the right, you see my canvas, and you'll see that we'll be using that in order to build our dashboards. And you can see the number of out-of-the-box visualizations that we have. We have all types of visualizations, from simple pivot and columns and charts to more sophisticated gauges, traffic lights, panels. We even have functions that people like a refreshing sheet or creating an input text box that's going to drive a calculation within the report. So all those come out of the box, and again, you really don't have to learn any script or anything in order to work with them. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a widget. Now, you can see the widgets on the left here include charts and so forth. Here, the widget can also be an image. Right? So we're going to make this report good looking. I'm going to add an image. Let's just pick this Salesforce.com meetup, very popular in San Francisco. And I'm going to copy that. Which is another great function of the solution is it respects the typical shortcuts you might have on the machine, like Control-C, Control-V, and so forth. I just copy the image. I'm going to drag it over. First of all, I'm going to put a different picture, and I'm going to drag it over here. There you go. So now it's starting to look a little better. Let's center that a little bit, and let's just get started. Let's get started with a great visual. I'm going to pick a line chart. Okay, so I'm going to extend that line chart, and here I'm going to start now solving my first problem, which is I want simply, out of one data source, I want to understand my Google traffic. I want to understand my Google traffic by source or medium, CPC-driven traffic and non-CPC, so traffic that I'm paying for versus traffic I'm not paying for. Today, getting that one view in Google Analytics is actually very hard. You can see independently traffic from CPC and traffic from non-CPC, but you can't see it in the same visualization. So I'm going to create that very quickly. How do you do that? Well, like I showed you earlier in the Elastic Cube, you could search for fields. Here you can do the same thing within the data browser. So I'm going to search for traffic, anything that has traffic in it. I'm going to drag my days so I can look at my days here, and I'm also going to look at visits, I'm pick my visits here, and I'm going to bring them into my canvas. You can see, recognizes right away the visit can be looked at from multiple lenses, a sum, an average, what have you. I'm going to say today it's a sum. Boom. There you have it. Now, visits, total visit numbers across days. Fairly easy, right? Now, let's add a few more things here. Such as, for instance, let's add my medium, right? So my medium can be CPC, non-CPC, email, etc., etc. So again, I'm using my search box here to find the medium, and I'm going to drag my medium over, which now allows me to simply filter. I can see my CPC traffic, for instance. Now, well, that's great. I want to parse the data as is explained earlier. So just like I did with the pictures earlier, I can just copy and paste this data. I can lock this data. I can make it multiple selections. So you can see here earlier I could see a single selection. Now I'm going to make it multiple selections. So that means is I can now select other things than just CPC. I could see CPC and organic. But again, it's not what I want. I want to be able to have multiple selectors that allow me to now compare the traffic. So let's just rename this guy and call it medium 1. I'm going to reposition it where it needs to be, and I'm going to copy paste, just like I did for the photo earlier. Copy paste the filter, and you can see that I can go ahead and rename that filter. I'm going to call it medium 2, and there you have it. Now I got 2 filters. But these 2 filters are not going to be much helpful yet unless I qualify the number of visits and the calculations driven by these filters. So what I will do first is I will create a new measure. And this measure, again, the way I'm going to create is by using this bar here you see on the top. I'm simply basically drag and drop the functions. You see, I'm not typing anything here. I don't need to understand complicated logic. In fact, most of what I need to understand is basic Excel types of functions. Now, what's also great about the tool, and this is a very valuable piece of functionality, is you can see here the red bar on the left tells me that my function is not complete. Very useful, because sometimes we're very proud about building certain calculations, and then we save them, and then unfortunately after the fact we realize the calculation was wrong or wouldn't parse. In this case, SiSense will not allow you to do that. You can see here I just completed my formula, and I've got now a green bar which tells me, great, I can now say that this is my Med1 calculation. So this will be visits that are driven by this first filter here. Let's do another one. Now I can start from scratch, or I can just duplicate this guy. First of all, let me remove that, and I can just go ahead and duplicate this guy by calling it Med2, right? So I'm going to rename that. It's Med2. And Med2 I want to edit, of course, because I want it to be driven by the second filter. And I'm putting that, and there you go. So now you get Med1 and Med2, which I'm going to drive down, update my chart, and what you have, all of a sudden, you have the ability to filter for CPC, and you have the ability for filtering for non-CPC data. Fairly straightforward. Now this graph looks great, but one of the great solutions you have here inside the tools, you can customize a lot of what you're looking at. There's hundreds of possibilities. Let me show you some previews. I can do line charts, I can do bars, I can just do anything I want. And what's really cool about it is I can separate the lines and how I want to customize the view of the data. So in this case, for instance, I'm going to do a spline for my second medium source, so I can see my bars, and I can see lines for the other data, which is great. I can also further personalize the view. So let me show you another example here where, you know, I'm not sure how to pick the color, but I want to personalize it to the photos that I have. Some companies like to personalize it for their logos, for instance, so that their employees feel like the analytics they have matches the identity of the company. And so in that case, I'm just going to pick from the screen. I don't really have to think about the code of the color. And I'm going to pick this blue here, this SiSense blue. Awesome. And then for this guy, I am going to pick the other logo. And so what I'm doing here, you can see, I'm going to pick that second logo, and I'm going to pick from the screen. And there you go. I picked the red from the Salesforce.com logo. All right, so now you've got a great looking dashboard that I built in just a few minutes. I'm going to add a few things here real quick, such as the date picker, date range picker. And you can see that all of a sudden it's going to filter based on my dates and my days. And then now, look at that. You can quickly filter your information and look at it from a date standpoint. So very easy way to build a great looking dashboard quickly, without any coding, without any scripting, and actually do something fairly sophisticated that even Google Analytics can't do.